Roll call. Thank you, sir.
Chair McCready,
Present.
Vice Chair Walker,
Present.
Commissioners Basacha, Commissioner Boggs, Hill,
Present.
Aikens,
Present.
Roney.
Present.
Thank you.
With that, we have our public comment period. And now, this is not project-specific, this public comment period. Am I correct on that?
This is public comment.
Just-
And no, yeah, read the little
Oh.
thing at the top of your agenda.
Okay. So then I will call Don Teedley. Teedy. Hard T.
Dawn Teeting, North Signal Street. Good evening. As many of you are aware, the past few months have shed light on lack of environmental review and public disclosure on development at 1105 North Signal Street and lack of city regulations to protect cultural resources. Tonight you heard additional concerns about questionable CEQA applicability analysis and protection for historic and cultural resources on another proposed development. In order to preserve and protect Ojai's historic properties and the heritage of Ojai, I stand before you tonight to encourage you to agendicize recommendations made in the February 2012 City of Ojai Historic Resources Screening Survey final report. And those recommendations were, and I quote, city's building, planning, and CEQA procedures be reviewed and amended as required to ensure that historic resources issues are considered at appropriate points within these permitting and reviewing processes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question about that?
Commissioner Walker?
Because that project went back to the, for review for a permit, is that right? I read in the paper that that project had to go before the Planning Commission now, whereas before the decisions were ministerial.
You're talking about 1105?
Yeah.
And so what's your question? I'm sorry.
My question is, because it went back to the Planning Commission, does that make it a discretionary project?
It will. You mean because it will go before? Yes.
So
Mhm.
then would it appear before our commission because the house has historic value?
I don't know. I haven't seen the historic report, so I can't tell you.
Okay.
I don't know. It's not landmarked, so it won't be coming before you as a work permit or
No,
anything of
just
that
as a
nature.
potential historic structure under CEQA.
We have talked to the applicant and told him he needed to do a historic report on the house.
Okay,
And he talked to me today, and he told me that they've hired somebody out of Santa Barbara to do that. But to date, I have no information as to, other than anecdotally, what people feel about the house, and so I would reserve judgment until I read the report.
okay,
We're talking about the Dixon Kelly house?
yes.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay. Mhm. So they are having to do a full analysis from an independent source, prior to coming in.
Are there any other public comments or questions? Kathy, just to clarify, we're going straight into Ojai Valley School.
Oh, do you
Oh,
want to do
prior-
that? Is Mr. Stassi here? And he's
Yes.
been waiting, then if you want to amend the
Oh.
agenda and have him come first, so he doesn't have to wait through all of our,
Well, normally we would approve the minutes
oh,
first.
he is there. Oh, he is there. I'm sorry. Sherry did put him next. He is going in there. Okay. I think that's probably just because at this point we knew somebody would be waiting a long time in the audience. So my apologies.
Okay, if there are no further public comments, then I'll invite Andrew Stasi from the Ojai Valley School to address the commission on progress at Ojai Valley School.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. And when you get to the mic, please announce yourself.
Good evening, commissioners and staff, and thank you for making space for this and with your optimistic schedule tonight.
Thanks for staying with us.
Happy to do it. It's interesting. It should be a relative walk in the park, and I'm going to try to foreshorten this. My name is Andrew Stassi, 305 East Matilaha Street in Ojai. We're actually not with the Ojai Valley School. We are the general contractor and as well as the concept designer of the Founders Workshop project. We're really here tonight to update you on progress, share with you some pictures, maybe help connect the dots a little bit in relationship to what we perceived as what might be a bit of a misunderstanding as to the process to date, the work that has commenced and is continuing, and to answer any questions that you may have in that regard. As you know, the project was thoroughly vetted through Planning Commission, through your commission, through a historian, and we believe that, in fact, we know that the work that's been completed to date has strictly adhered to the Secretary of Interior standards and all the associated requirements. I would like to just give you the opportunity to put to bed any misunderstanding in regards to the use of materials, the process of demolition, and make it very, very clear that we're quite confident, and we're quite confident with our presentation, that you'll be completely satisfied with the process to date. I'd like to also address the fact that in reality this building could have been a condemned building. And instead of the school taking the path of having the building condemned and having it completely torn down and looking at this as a rebuild, in fact, we looked at it as a rehabilitation and rather than a reconstruction. So I think there may have, again, been some misunderstanding initially between the difference between repair and rehabilitation, and I'm here to address that and answer any questions that you may have in that regard. And to help connect those dots, what I'd like to do is give you two packages and address each package. The first package is just giving you an idea of the real condition of the building, and so that you have an understanding of what we're all up against. And the second package is a little more fun. It's showing you some pictures of the progress to date. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand out, and we don't have an overhead projector set up, and I'm not set up to use it. But maybe you guys can share this. Hand you out some packages just qualifying the condition of the building initially. Maybe you can share this. And you all can share this. I'm sorry. And here's one for you folks to pass on if you like. So I'm going to just take about a minute and a half so I can get this on the record and read this. This was a letter that was sent out to the city. It says initially the Founders Workshop was reviewed with the San Buenaventura Research Association, SBRA, the historian, during the design phase of the project, and it was noted that there was evidence of severe dry rot and structural damage to the building. SBRA noted this in their report, and ASC, that's Andrew Stassi Company, proceeded with the demolition phase of the project accordingly. In order to accurately qualify the removal of the siding during the demolition phase of the project, a brief discussion of dry rot is appropriate. Dry rot is a general term used to identify wood decay caused by certain species of fungi that digest parts of the wood, which give the wood strength and stiffness. The term dry rot is a misnomer given to brown rot decay. Brown rot decay is triggered by elevated moisture content in the wood material and the growth of fungi which preferentially remove cellulose from the wood material. Dry rot fungi may migrate away from moisture centers in the wood and continue to evolve and lay dormant. Accordingly, the appearance of dry rot is not always evident on the material's surface. However, the integrity of the material may still considerably be compromised. During the demolition phase of the founder's workshop, care was taken to examine the material that was removed. Weight was given to the possibility that the material could in any way be repaired or utilized for reuse. Material that had lost a level of integrity due to moisture incursion and associated brown rot decay could not be repaired, was isolated for removal from the site. Approximately 450 square feet of siding material was maintained on site for further determination of use. As previously noted, and as attached in the photographs will indicate, the moisture incursion that took place for a better part of a century has affected most of the structure, and accordingly, the process of demolition. So if you just continue forward in the package, you'll see the condition of this building and the severity of the dry rot. And it's very difficult when you're looking at a building and it's not through investigation or you haven't further demolished the building to really see this extent. But I think the pictures speak for themselves. Additionally, this was a single wall construction building. You can see by the original framing, studs 4 feet on center and single wall siding. At a later date, what they did is they went in through the years and they added some Celotex to the interior of the building. As I said before, the building was very unsafe and needed a structural diaphragm to allow the building to have any real future. So this, in essence, if you look through the pictures, you'll see exposed floor joist. You'll see the roof sheathing was extremely dry rotted and decayed. We saved every piece of the building that could possibly be saved. And in fact, we also saved all of the architectural primary elements. The primary elements being the elevation, of course, all the primary windows, the flooring, and the fireplace and the roof structure. So at the end of the day, there was really nothing else that could be maintained. This building was not adorned initially, and the history of this building is much about the use and probably more about the use than the actual structure itself. It was not highly adorned with real elaborate architectural features. So some would argue that it was a shack, but it really did truly have a true historical use. And the structure itself had some architectural features which were clearly identified in the historical reports, such as the fireplace, the floor, the windows, and the use of board and bat siding. It was an anomaly. The structure was originally designed, and the building was built, in essence, under the stewardship of Edward Yeomans and not Wallace Neff. So it's an isolated structure, and the rehabilitation and the associated additions, however, do integrate very, very nicely with the Wallace Neff intention. And I'm quite certain that both Edward Yeomans and Wallace Neff, at the end of the day, would be very, very proud of what's been recreated. So that's kind of the phase one. I don't know if you have any questions regarding this first process.
Commissioner Boggs?
The windows that you refer to are the ones that face the courtyard or the west from the original shop, and no other windows?
No, in fact, some of the windows, there was a contiguous addition that was kind of scabbed onto the building over the years on the east side, and some of those windows had been removed, and we actually replaced a few of the windows with a few of the windows that had been permanently fixed in place. So those were replaced, all of the windows, and I'll show you in the other photographs that I'm going to present to you. They were surgically removed, bagged. The frames, unfortunately, were rotted. The windows themselves, what they had is a very simple knuckle hinge system on the windows, and it was unsafe. So the only change to the window itself was that we installed friction hardware, which allows the teacher or the student to open and close the window with control. We did not, since the windows have the original glass, the original mullion, the original grid design, we did not want to allow that window just to close quickly on its own. So the only change was a friction hardware. And in fact, here was our number of pictures of the windows as a work in progress. We were very, so all of the original window dimension, window grid, in fact, right down to the putty holding the glass in was maintained. The frames were built to match exactly in dimension the old frames, with the exception that there's a small stop on the inside that's required to encapsulate the friction hardware.
Any other commissioner questions of the applicant?
I had a question because it came to our attention. Sorry. It came to our attention because the building or the construction had been stopped. The project had been red tagged because it was felt that you had exceeded the conditions of the permit. And I was wanting you to comment on that, why you think that happened.
I think what happens sometimes in these processes is that things evolve, and I think there are at times technical miscommunication. Our feeling is that there was no basis to stop construction based on a historical basis. I think, in fact, I know that there was a miscommunication within the description and the plans themselves, and there was not a miscommunication regarding the rehabilitation factor of the structure, but there clearly was a miscommunication regarding the structural diaphragm of that portion of the building. The building, the plan checker reviewed the structure as a historical repair and not so much as a rehabilitation. And therefore there was no, within the permitted plans, there was no, or within the accepted plans, I should say, there was no specific engineering criteria regarding the structural diaphragm of this building. So I think it was probably a bit shocking for staff, the building inspector, when they came out and they saw the severity of the removal of the siding, and with no associated structural calculations regarding the building. I mean, it was really more of the mechanics. It was not, frankly, it was not a difficult thing, certainly, to calc out the building and qualify the diaphragm. But I think there was possibly a misinterpretation and a misunderstanding regarding the difference between repair and rehabilitation. And realize that the Secretary of Interior Standards, it's not like they're giving you a shopping list and giving you a choice. The repair, rehabilitation, restoration, or reconstruction of a building is qualified by the condition of the building itself. It's not qualified by the builder, frankly, even by the historian. The condition of the building dictates to a great degree what it is that you must do. And in this particular case, since there was a contiguous addition to the building being proposed, repair was not an option. So it was always intended to be a rehabilitation. I completely understand the miscommunication regarding the difference between repair and rehabilitation. I think at this stage, fortunately, it's water well under the bridge, and I think we're all on the same page.
But even the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation state that every effort should be made to keep the original materials and to only replace those that maybe were damaged by dry rot or termite damage or whatever. And I think what took us aback was the extent of the demolition and the replacement that we saw, because it is a historic building and you want to maintain it as is and not have just a reproduction of that building put. in its place. Even though I understand it's not a historic or an architectural work of art, it is a very historic building. And for that reason, you want it to be preserved as much as possible.
And we're in complete agreement. And in fact, being that we were the concept designer, our first, one of our early actions was to bring a historian in and to qualify the history, not only architecturally, but as far as the use of the structure. And we were very, very clear, and I think the historian's report was very clear that there was substantial dry rot in the building. And per the Secretary of Interior Standards, she was very clear that all of the siding, or a high percentage of the siding, may need to be replaced and removed and replaced in kind. And that's exactly what we've done. And I think when I'll show you these additional pictures, you'll be very satisfied with that work. The siding has not only been replaced in kind, the bats have been replaced in kind, and we've taken extreme care to make sure that the nominal thickness, dimension, species of not only the siding, the bats, the trim, the dimensions, as I said, with the exception of some waterproofing elements that were necessary in the bottom of the building, have been matched to the T. We have also took extreme care to make sure that the original elevation, roof structure, flooring, fireplace, et cetera, all of this has been done in context, remember, of accessibility, health and safety, energy requirements, and sustainability. And the good news is, coming out of all of this, is that at the end of the day, we have a building that not only truly represents the original building in material, dimension, across the board, but you have a building that's going to last another 100 years, where truly it was in a state where it could have been torn down. So on that note, unless you have any more questions.
Commissioner Hill?
Yeah, I'm wondering, at the point, the discovery that the building was in worse shape than you could initially see from the outside before you tore it open, and once you realized that this was going to be a grander project that was involved, shouldn't that have come back to this, notified the city to notify us so that we would have had a hearing on how to proceed from that point? We feel that the commission was totally left out of the whole decision-making process, and that's what we do.
And the architectural's report was after the fact, as I understand. The work wasn't permitted to continue until you got the architect, or not the architect, but the architectural historian to come back and to review it. And I think what you're saying is it'd be nice if he would have reviewed it before the work was done rather than after the work.
Well, folks, I understand what you're saying, but let me break it down a little bit more sequentially for you, if I could, for a moment. I think the historian's report was quite clear, and there is a considerable difference between a rehabilitation and a repair. And I think the historian's report was quite clear early on that the rehabilitation would require that there was severe dry rot in the building, and that it would require the removal of the siding. And part of in context of this, which is difficult to grasp, remember, this is a single wall construction. So when you remove the siding, you basically have nothing but what you see, I will show you in these pictures, or what you see in these pictures, which is studs 4 foot on center with a roof structure and a floor. So that's all there was to the building. So I understand how visually it may appear as though more was done than was really done, but there really isn't that much to the building. The sequence, however, remember, what we did is we pulled a demolition permit, not a building permit. So it was always intended, initially, the plans were in plan check, it was always intended that this process was sequential. There were steps in this process. The first step was to demolish the building. The second step was to finalize any other details that were required under the permit and move forward. So
none of that came before us. We got no indication that there was a plan to demolish the building.
Well, I think in order to move forward, again, the process of demolition is necessary to the process of building. And I think I don't know, I'm not suggesting, and I'm not qualified to suggest what other steps may be needed in the future regarding processes. I could make some suggestions, but I think I think it's very clear that the plans went through the required process. And from a builder's perspective, we did everything that was required and in fact went well above and beyond what frankly a lot of builders would do. I think, and let me pass out this other level of this package, because I think when you see the next phase of this, it maybe will give you a better grasp of it. Yeah, sure. Excuse me.
Yes, Commissioner Akins?
I'd just like to check with Kathleen. As was indicated, I don't remember ever hearing anything about a demolition permit. And so that's...
Okay, so...
I'm not sure we would have approved a project that would have come to us with a demolition permit hanging over its head. So I'm curious.
Okay, so let's just back up a little bit here. While this is a historic building, it's not a landmarked building, so it didn't require a work permit as you did earlier this evening. So it came before you, I believe, as an advisory body for your consideration, and then got entitled through Planning Commission. In all of the paperwork that was submitted to both you and the Planning Commission, it said very clearly, repair and replace as necessary. So when you're entitling something, the applicant doesn't know whether they're going to get entitled or not. They don't know if they're going to receive their development review permit or their conditional use permit. So there's only a simple level of investigating work that this gentleman would do, because he doesn't know, all right? So it's standard practice that there would be some flexibility to the language, repair and replace as necessary, because he didn't do his investigative work until they got their entitlements, which is what they're supposed to do. I mean, it's standard. You're not supposed to do, but that's standard. So so at that point, the Planning Commission has really given them the green light to repair or replace as necessary. Now, where the Department of Interior criteria comes in, what both of these gentlemen have talked about is that's the level of whether he repairs or replaces. And so all that really took place was we were totally always within their rights to do what they were doing, which was replace if it was necessary. So the stop work order got placed on them for them to document to us, for anybody that walked in and saw the file, that it was necessary. And that's what he's presented before you tonight. And so I think, as he said, the miscommunication, I think the only really miscommunication between all of it was they got to the point that it needed to be completely replaced faster than the information got to the city, and we understood the overall impact of the siding and the conditions. So I think that as he said, he was under a demolition permit, which is just an avenue that allows them to do some deconstruction. I mean, demolition is the old word. Deconstruction would be the new word. They're taking certain things off in order to do the things that he needed to do under his entitlement, which was evaluate the siding and the elements, whether they could be repaired or replaced. So I think he was totally within the entitlements that were granted to him. He just needed to provide the documentation. He had a number of things that he did. He had a termite report. He had this letter from him. I should say the letter from their general contractor. And they had a historian that talked about it. And then we just set out a protocol of how the work program would go back together in keeping with the Department of Interior's standards. And that was kind of all that needed to be done. And then, like I said, when we came in before you the first time, we kind of did an overview of it, then they were free to go. I think the only issue, as everyone says, is that in a single wall construction, when you go out there and you just see that there's nothing left, because once you've taken out dry rotted siding, it's just a skeleton, it's just bones there. And so I think that was just shocking to people. And that's why we need the documentation in the file to say that, yes, everything again, it gets back to this CEQA thing that we talked about earlier tonight. CEQA only allows an exemption if you say that you're not doing something that materially damages historic building. And they were in keeping and found to be in keeping with the Department of Interior's criteria. They just needed to document the steps that they took. That's all they needed to do. So I think that it wouldn't come back before you because it was already entitled that way, repair or replace as necessary. And that would commonly be done when you're in the construction phase that you would evaluate.
Okay.
It never came before us, though. You said come back before us again. It never came before.
I thought you saw this project as an informational item.
did.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Did. I think you were absent.
I might have been.
You were absent.
So again, to get back to Mr. Stasi, what you're saying is the demolition, repair or replace, on replace, you have to demolish it before you can replace it.
Well, you certainly can't, if you're, let me put it this way, we would have never gone through a process of demolition without the guidance of a historian, the historian's report. And the historian's report was very clear, replace as necessary in kind. And again, and it's not repair, and I think that's where some of the miscommunication happened as the plan checker was looking at the plans. He looked at this more as a repair, and he didn't. And there are historical exemptions if you're repairing a historical building that don't require today's code requirements and the full associated engineering. He wanted to see the full associated engineering, and that was one of the main criteria for stopping the project. Our opinion is red tag, of course. We think that was a bit of maybe of a overstep, but it's irrelevant. It's water under the bridge. We all came to a positive conclusion, I think, in the process, and we're here now. Let's be. I want to be perfectly clear. There was no other choice, folks. We could have ripped the school would have had a very, very substantial case to say tear the building down and reconstruct. So again, repair, rehabilitate, restore, or reconstruct. This was a rehabilitation. It could not be anything but a rehabilitation. We don't qualify this. The Department of Interior Secretary of Interior standards qualify what it is that you have to do, especially when you are completing a contiguous improvement to the existing historical structure.
If I can, I just like to interject because this word demolition seems to be of concern. I just want to make sure that you all understand that they didn't go in there and demo the building. They took these boards off because, as he stated in his letter, they were able to save 450 square feet of the siding material. I mean, went out on the site and I saw it. What they did is when they were removing it, so much of it was so dry rotted that it was, if you've seen the picture, I mean, I was out there, it's powdery, so it wasn't like they just had people just ripping this stuff off, demoing. They deconstructed, they saved what they could save. So that's kind of an inflammatory word, demolishing.
We got that.
I just want to make sure that you understand. I mean, I don't think he's giving you the correct, if they hadn't done it thoughtfully, you wouldn't have had this material salvaged. Okay.
It was not only done thoughtfully, it was done surgically. And it was not only was every piece of siding that could be saved was saved. We saved pieces that were long enough to be cut, remilled, and used again in other portions of the building, short above and below windows, et cetera, et cetera. We also saved every piece of skip sheathing up on the roof that could be possibly saved. We cut back the rafter tails, scabbed onto them where it could be, you'll see in your pictures. We also cut back the floor joists and reblocked. And again, all of this was in an effort to save a considerably damaged a building and reconstruct it because of the historical value. And I think it's been very successful in that sense. And I would also like to note that this was not done in a void. It was done in constant collaboration with the historian who wrote 2 or 3 times in her opinion. The process to date has met or exceeded the Secretary of Interior standards.
Thank you. Commissioner Hill?
Yes. A couple of years ago, when Jolene Lloyd, when Jolene Lloyd was chairman of this commission, we had a problem with a house there was a demolition phrase brought up at that time. And she fought and fought and fought. We had a 4-hour meeting over that issue. And so we're very sensitive to you say, as you say about this inflammatory word to demolish something. And I thought we had made it clear to the city, the staff at that time, that we didn't want to get into that position again, that we wanted to see an orderly sequence of events. Now, to have an historic a report written after the fact, that isn't in the ordinary scheme of things. We want to be included in this process. And so I can't emphasize that anymore. And I know that the Mr. Stasi is tried to do the things that he's supposed to do. But on the other hand, I'm not so sure the communication from Mr. Stasi to the city, to the historian, to the plan checker, all of that went in an orderly fashion. I would like to see this thing stepped out so that it's going so that we too are aware of what the status is of the building at that particular time, and that we can make a comment somewhere along the line.
May I just make a comment?
Thank you.
Okay, can I just say something first? I just want to answer this
Okay.
if I can. I think that, staff does take what you say to staff seriously and about the process and what comes before the Historic Preservation Commission. As you see, we did place a stop work order on
I
them.
understand that.
Okay. And again, I'm not going to belabor the point, but the reason the word demolition comes up in Mr. Stasi use it is that is the type of permit. That's just a label on a permit. No one gave him right to demolish a building. Plans are received when we issue a demolition permit. It's like an electrical permit. It's an old archaic name of a permit. So he never had the green light to demolish the building. He had a demolition permit that allowed him to do what you had approved him to do. I know it's very semantics, but he and I both know that it's important that you understand that demolition only occurs because that's what it's called, not because it granted him the right to demo a building.
Thank you.
And I think, folks, fortunately, you're here, and we all, of course, appreciate and respect your service. And I think, out of all fairness to the historian and the school involved, I think pretty clearly the process was respected. The school, the Ojai Valley School, I would just like to say something very, very positive. I think there was, again, based on our reading of the last meeting, possibly some misunderstanding. The school has spent tremendous time, effort, and energy and resources to make sure that this historical use and the preservation of this building come to fruition. And I think all processes can be improved. Maybe there's some checks and balances that you all can consider, but I can tell you at the root of this that it was never, of course, through concept design and through building and through the use of the school's resources and their considerate deliberation regarding this matter, that there was never, ever any intent to do anything but exactly what the process requires and go above and beyond, frankly, what the Secretary of Interior standards require. And as was supported by, as I mentioned, by a number of letters from the historian, and I think at this juncture very much supported by the city. So I think we're all on the same page. I think cleaning up possibly some of these processes is probably always a good thing. But we're here now, and I think that you'll be very happy with the end result.
I'd just like to say one more thing as far as the process, that when we get a report from a historian that says a building is eligible for the National Register, that it needs to follow the Secretary of the Interior standards, and that a documentary report needs to be presented to us for approval at the end of the process, that there should be a process set up in the city that involves this commission more. So it has nothing to do with you. Well, maybe not. No, it doesn't really. It more,
Thank you.
it more is just trying to make sure that it comes before this commission in some way, that we have that responsibility.
You know, just a suggestion, and, you know, we've probably built over 50 projects in this valley, and we can fortunately say we can use all our clients as a reference. You know, one of the things that I think would be very, very helpful is that if the committee itself had a liaison that would actually go out to the project and physically, on a regular basis, do a job walk. You know, well, it hasn't happened in this case. And you know, and I just want to. We have spoken before on the phone, and I know the Brown Act comes to mind. But I think that I just want to let you know from day one, and on a continual basis, you all are invited. I would love to walk you through the process that we have, you know, very deliberately brought to fruition, and I think you'll really appreciate what you see.
Thanks a lot. And did you have one more question, Commissioner
Yes.
Boggs?
When the project is completed and you have a grand opening, are you going to invite us to the party?
Only if you bring alcohol. But let me pass out the second package, because I think this will answer a lot of questions. We'll do it quickly.
We do have more applicants ahead of us tonight, and it's been a long night already.
All right. Here we go.
Thank you.
Thank you for these. Yeah.
Can I say something while we're looking at the pictures?
If it's
Ju-
brief.
It's brief. Just to let you know that many of the members of this commission have worked at OVS, have written books about OVS. So we're very sympathetic. The OVS, the Frost Building, is a city landmark. The headmaster was singled out as the historian of the year. So OVS is very paramount in our minds, and that we do appreciate something that's done in the right way.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
Well, I will just be very brief. I'm going to just show you and I'm going to walk you through extremely quickly within about 2 minutes. It's the original picture was the original building. And then if you go to the next page, this is our work in progress, folks. This is, if you look at this view of this picture and this view of what we've done, in fact, this building is closer to what the original intent of this building. The building had a lot of scab-ons and add-ons over a period of time. The next picture that you look at, which is picture 2, I will ask you to determine what is the old siding and the new siding. Good luck. And if you look, and you'll notice that dimensionally, everything is exactly the same as it was. I gave it to you in black and white as well, because we're in the process of still painting. So if you notice these siding pictures, we have a blend right here. To the left, on the left side of picture 4, and the right side of picture 4 is the old and the new siding, and you can see the match. A lot of care was taken. Obviously, many coats of various substances were applied to this building for a long period of time. So what we looked at was the fact that they only had oil-based stain back in the day. We looked back at some of the old siding, some of the original patina, and that's how we came up with this surface. The next building is just giving you a look at the building, which is picture 5 of the building as it exists right now in the process of what we've done in the remodel. You'll notice the original windows. Picture 6 is a picture of what it looked like before we started, with the air conditioner hanging out of the window. Picture 7 is a view looking to the south side of the building. Again, just another elevation showing you that the building is almost, it's hard to tell the difference. The next picture is picture 8 of the original floor. We removed the portion of the original floor that we had to in order to rehabilitate, and that surface is in storage and will go back exactly as it was before. The next picture is looking east, picture 9, which is the contiguous addition, and you'll notice it's very much in the image of Wallace Neff. And the next picture you'll notice is a kind of a reflection to kind of pull some of the original wood shop, which is picture 10, which is pulling some of the original window elevation into the Neffish transition. Picture 11 is a view looking from the front of the building. The Founders Workshop is far to the right. It's not in the picture. Picture 12 is looking west towards the original Founders Workshop through the new transitionary addition. Picture 13 is a little bit closer. And picture 14 is the new easterly art addition to the building.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thanks.
Do you have any questions regarding these pictures, folks?
Skylights originally there?
What's that?
The skylights, were they there?
No, the
That's the
skylights
new
you see are in the new addition, correct. I would also like to point out one more thing, and that is you will be getting a complete report or the photographic diary, if we can put it that way, at the end of construction, as was required by the original historic report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for holding out and waiting for us tonight.
No, thank you.
So next, we have our consent items. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes from our October? It should be October, I believe.
Yeah, October 9th.
Skipped one.
I move the minutes be approved.
Second. Oh, I can't. I wasn't here.
Is so moved?
I'll go
The
for
min-
roll call, if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead.
Boggs? Abstain?
Wasn't here.
Abstain?
Abstain.
Hill?
Abstain.
Walker?
Yes.
McCready?
Yes?
Maroney?
Yes.
Akins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And the next on the agenda is, do we have the applicant here for the Twice Told Tales?
Yes.
Turn the time over to staff first for staff report.
Staff report?
Thank you. Good evening, or continued evening. Before you tonight is the miscellaneous permit 1414 historic landmark designation for the Twice. And I believe that it was pointed out to me that this is a typo. It's supposed to be Twice Sold Tales Bookstore, located at 121 East Ojai Avenue, assessor's parcel number 023-0-077-080. In the staff report is the recommendations that we have before you: conduct a public hearing, accept the CAD exemption from the California Environmental Quality Act, and adopt resolution number HPC 14-05, recommending the city council designate a historical landmark number 21 for the front facade, the roof line, and the proposed pergola of the property located at 121 East Ojai Avenue. So the staff report, and it's such a late hour tonight that I'll just kind of make it brief, goes into the historic report that was prepared, Phase 1 and Phase 2 for this project, dated October 20th, 2014. I hope that you've made yourself familiar with that and the findings in that. In the discussion of the landmark designation, there is the items that you must consider, which is very similar to the ones I read off earlier tonight for the Neff Lounge, and the criteria that you have, and I believe you're all familiar with that, so I won't go belabor the point. So with that, we've had they've come before this body previously a few months ago, talking about their activities. They were more than generous in coming back in and landmarking this property as you had requested. So we're trying to take this forward and not let the landmark status delay their proposed remodel that they're doing. As you know, they're coming in before Planning Commission with their extensive remodel. So you're kind of two-track parallel processes here, one to landmark and one they'll have the DRP. You follow? You look confused, but they will be doing that.
I don't know if we've ever landmarked something before that wasn't built.
Oh,
Just going to landmark the.
well, I think that what you're going to do is
Work has not been completed.
no. So what you're doing in this case is you're going to landmark the property as it is today with the conditions that they rehabilitate the front. That's how you're going to condition this with the pergola. And then you're going to landmark the front facade so that people that are working on the design review permit, just as we did tonight, will know that that is what the HPC wants. It will be landmarked. It will be in adopted by resolution, and therefore, when they do the design review permit, they'll be concurrent, they'll be consistent or compliant with one another.
Okay.
But we can always postpone this if you'd rather. We thought that you wanted this to come first, so it was very clear to the applicant and the planning commission.
The type of work they would need to do.
So that you have given your direction to how this will go, and that the front facade will be kept intact, and then the pergola will be rehabilitated or reconstructed.
Right.
Are there any questions from the commissioners for staff? And I invite the applicant to address the commission. Please state your name.
Good evening. My name is Josh Griffin with Cornerstone Architects, representing members of the board who were here earlier but had a prior engagement, so they had to leave. I'll be brief. Basically, we came in 2 months ago as an informational item to present what we wanted to do. In the course of this remodel, what we want to do is add a replica, basically, of the original pergola to the front of this building. In order to do that, it would encroach over existing setbacks. So to get the variance for those, to put that pergola back onto the front of the building, we would need some kind of condition that would allow us to have that variance. That condition would be a historical landmark designation. So to get the pergola built, we need to have the historical landmark designation in place. You've seen this before. We talked about it. The only concern that you guys really had about it was one of the skylights on top was pretty close to the front. So we removed that, and hopefully that'll make you happy.
Do any commissioners have questions of the applicant?
I saw the one picture, and it looked like that skylight was looming up on the front of the building.
Is it?
Which one?
Right here.
Yeah, that may be an older rendering. I'm not sure.
Okay, that one's.
Or it could be, yeah, I mean, the back one's at the same height, so in the straight-on elevation, you'd still see it, but it's further back in the building. We did remove the front one in our newest rendition of the drawings, which I'm not sure if that is or not. But
So the ones that are there are not visible from the street?
no. You can see it on the floor plan. It's actually designated in dashed lines where it would be, and we kept the one in the middle. There's three, and we're keeping the middle one and the further back one. Yeah, where your finger's pointing. That one we're keeping. That's further back. Yeah, we had one closer to the street. We had one there that we removed. Correct.
And I was wondering about the pillars. Are you going to, how are you going to decide the size?
We're going to get as close. We have a historical photograph of those pillars, and we're going to try to base our measurements on that exact. Yes, we're.
When all is said and done, they'd be skinny pillars.
No, we'll do our best to match exactly that picture.
Okay, that's why I think one of the concerns of landmarking ahead of time, but before we see the result. But as long as that's the plan to make it as identical as possible.
Can I just offer this for your consideration? I know it's awkward doing it this way, but once it's landmarked, he will have to have a work permit. So, it's.
We'll have a second.
Well, you're going to have, you're already going to be looking at this, but we're going to kind of keep him in this little circular kind of thing, unfortunately. He's going to go landmark, go to city council. He's going to get his DRP kind of concurrently. If you wanted to, you could have him come back with the drawings before we issue the building permit to look at a work permit. I don't think we would due to the unusual circumstances of having him kind of do this kind of circular stuff, we probably wouldn't charge him for it, but you could have him come back for the work permit and look at it before we issued the building permit, just so that you had certainty in exactly how these things, they'll put the flesh on the bones, so to speak. And I'm sure he would be fine with that coming back, if that's how you wanted to do it. Because I want to be very clear that, once he's a landmark, he really technically needs a work permit to do work, even though we're kind of already giving him permission to do that.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes, just a comment. I've been on this commission for a long, long time, and this has come up before, and there is rumor, and I can't guarantee it, but the original pillars are what do you call them?
Pilasters, the pilasters.
Yeah.
columns.
There was, this is the last I heard about 7 or 8 years ago, they're down in the city yard. So if you went down there and asked some questions, you might even find the exact dimensions.
Yeah.
And if you could find the remnants of one of those.
Well, I will definitely look into that.
And that's just a rumor.
And then in the next meeting, I'll bring one in so you can see what we're doing.
Are there any further questions?
Yeah.
Any other further questions from the commissioners to the applicant? Public comment? Carolina? With that, the public hearing is closed. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing.
No, no.
We just,
Need a motion
you
to
want further
approve.
discussion before you adopt the
We-
resolution?
Do we have a motion first to accept the exemption and then to approve for
Right.
the two separate?
No, one motion to adopt the reso.
The resolution,
And-
just to adopt the resolution.
Okay.
I would just caution you that if you have concerns, modify the resolution to say, subject to the applicant coming back before you prior to issuance of a building permit, demonstrating the proportionality of the pillars. I mean, I always caution my commissions, when the person is at the podium and they say that they'll do something, you need to really either, one, take action without considering that item, or condition the approval that they do it. And that's just making sure, and it's just a thorough way of doing it.
So do we have a motion?
Vice Chair Walker, you want to go ahead?
I'll move that we accept the resolution, or we adopt the resolution with the condition that before any permits are issued, that the final drawings or the final.
That the applicant submit for a work permit and demonstrate submit for a work permit, which would show that the project's, it's getting late, my brain's not firing right. I'm sorry, so that, yeah, demonstrate or detail for the commission that the final drawings that are consistent with the landmarking and why you landmarked it, the elements.
Consistent with the preliminary documents.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I think that we just need to know that, well, I'm going to shut up because I'm just really too tired at this point. But I would say that's what I would say, that the work permit is just kind of the wrapping it up with a bow, saying, we landmarked it. We're landmarking the front facade. And we're very clear with this now so this will not be a subjected 10 years down the road to, was it the outdoor area, was it this, was it that. We're saying very clearly what's in here and getting landmarked, and that the work permit will demonstrate that the work being done on those elements is consistent with why it was landmarked.
I like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do we have a second?
Do we have a second?
I will second that. Thank you.
Roll call?
No further discussion?
No further discussion?
Boggs?
Oh, was I supposed to vote yes or no?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
McCready?
Yes.
Maroney?
Yes.
Akins?
Yes.
Motion passed.
It is. Item 3, we have a sign permit application for Carolina Graham extra virgin olive oil products located in the city of Ojai. Historic landmark number 5, the Ojai Arcade, 202 to 328 East Ojai Avenue. Staff, do you have a report?
So I'm going to be very brief on this due to the late hour, and I think that the staff report is very self-explanatory. The only real issue with this is that the sign proposed, as we pointed out, is a combination of black background with off-white border. Staff just wants you to consider whether that should be more earth tone, brown, or wood tones. We've placed a condition requiring that because that's kind of what the guidelines we've provided for you in the packet say. If you feel that the black is fine, then we would ask that you remove that condition. But, you know, in looking at the arcade guidelines, it's always been that it's earth tone. And so that's the only issue I think that you need to consider. Everything else is consistent.
I noticed that my own feeling is that, you know, the lanterns in the arcade and on the pergola are also black, and the wrought iron. Black wouldn't bother me. I don't know if there are other commissioner comments.
Let's hear from
Applicant want to come forward, and please announce yourself. Thank you so much, and thank you for waiting so long.
Oh, my name is Carolina Graham. Thanks for having me, and it's like giving birth in a way. That's how long it takes. I know, you poor guys. Anyway, when I said black, there are other signs which are in the same kind of coloring like I had envisioned. And when I say it's not pitch black, it's more going to be like a brownish black. And besides that, when the wood is blasted, you can never really have a total exact black anyway. Okay, and I make sure it's not black like my jars are, which I have in my shop. I promise that. So I do want to change something on the name, and I don't know what you have on the name. It's very simple. I'm going to cut some stuff off of it. It says, I believe it says Carolina Graham on there. And then it says olive oil products and, yes, extra virgin olive oil products. If it says anything underneath it, like tasting room, take that out. Okay, because my husband had this thing. I don't have a copy of it. I gave you guys the copy. So can I just look at it for a second? That's it, just like that.
I have a question.
Yes,
Why the umlaut over the I?
because it's Carolina, not Carolina.
Oh, okay. Good.
And in the English language, that's the way you have to say it. I wish I wouldn't have to put two of those dots on it, but it's just the way.
I think it's nice.
It's the proper way to say it. Any
Other questions from commissioners to the applicant? Comments? Public comments? Do we have a motion to approve the? I'm sorry. With that, the public hearing is closed on this application. Do we have a motion to approve the sign permit? Or further discussion?
I would like to just say that I would like to see it, the background color, definitely with the brown earth tones. You can mix it with the black, but definitely show a brown tinge in there somewhere.
Okay. There are three signs. Other vendors have a sign. One of them is Human Arts. One of them is Love Heals, and there's one more. Oh yeah, it's one more. But anyway, they have that same coloring. So I'm going for those colorings, and those are already existing signs.
We've had it took years, somewhere along the line, for a couple of years, the people that put up the signs just put them up, and they didn't go through the city to get permits. And there's a number of signs in the arcade that violate the regulations that we set forth for the historic property of the arcade. And I don't know if you're referring to, I know Human Arts is not one of them, but I don't know about the other two. But they specified in that, and it gave a color palette of having earth tones. So that's what's in the statute.
Do you guys need to see the color before I put it on the sign?
I think that on paper, it just looks pretty black.
Well, it's my husband's printout, yes.
Hopefully, like you say, you're going to sandblast it. And anyone that'll sit here and wait for 2 hours, I give them my permission.
So with that,
Okay.
Then it's
6 o'clock, we'd have been 45 minutes on this.
It's okay, I was ready for it.
With that, are there any other questions of the applicant, any other public comment?
I'll make a motion that we accept
So-
the sign.
I'll second it.
It is so moved. Do you want to do the roll call?
Yeah.
Can I just ask that we condition it upon making sure that it's sandblasted, that it has that brownish earth tone in it? that she's
Black.
speaking of?
Black with brown.
Black.
Yes.
I'm using the same guy who actually does a lot of the signs. He's the
Okay.
local guy,
Well, there's,
and he does.
Please don't bring him in. Please don't bring him in.
Local guy that
there's
does
one
them all
local
wrong.
guy.
I hope he's not
He-
the guy.
No, I need that name then.
Wait, so should we go ahead and take a vote, or is there further discussion?
So
Okay.
Yeah.
were we allowed to put what Craig said in the
You
motion?
need to ask the
Okay,
second,
good.
will he amend his second? She amend her motion, me and your second, then you're fine.
Okay,
I second the amended motion that was.
Okay.
thank you.
So am I understand this correctly, for the record, you're conditioning that the background be a brown, black,
Yes.
Black brown.
a black, brown background? Okay, very good.
Commissioner Akins,
Yes.
Commissioner Roney,
Yes.
Chair McCready,
Yes.
Vice Chair Walker,
Yes.
Commissioner Hill,
Yes, I think.
Commissioner Boggs.
Yes, for sure.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you for hanging in there.
I waited 3 months for this.
No, you don't. I was going to bring this up. It's a really.
Item number 4, proposed changes to the fee schedule for FY 2014-15 associated with historic preservations.
Could
We
that,
need-
we table that for our next meeting? Yeah.
I think we should.
We will-
I think it's just too important at this, and to discuss it when all our minds are
Do
foggy.
we have to vote on tabling it?
Yes,
We do?
Because when we have
just continue it
Okay.
to,
motion that we table this.
Do we have a second?
I'll second,
Will
I'll
the,
third.
Will the fees stay as they are
I think-
until we?
yes, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yes, I think you should just continue it to the next regularly state, table kind of means like you're not going to, but, continue it to the next scheduled
Did I say
meeting.
table?
Continue.
No.
And then I just, my understanding is that there were some no new fees will be assessed of an individual until you evaluate these. The fees that were already in existence will be escalated to whatever the new fee would be. So a landmark plaque they might be charged that $7.97. But I think that the council, I sat through all these meetings, and they're very much wanting to not change any of these until you take action on them.
Because I really have a lot to say
No,
about
that,
escalating.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
fine.
Yeah.
So right now, we can, we don't have anybody, twice sold, what their fees were waived because, they're associated with the library, so they didn't get charged. Is that correct, Sherry? Am I saying that right? We don't have anybody right now in front of us coming in to be landmarked. So there's no urgency. You can feel confident that you can continue this until the next meeting. The only person that came in was the Neff Lounge.
How about the guy that was gonna fix the arch over?
We haven't heard anything from him.
Yeah.
And, no.
The rest is in quiet.
I would
Oh.
like to table
Oh.
the rest of the agenda, or I guess I could just leave, couldn't I?
We're still on this
I
item.
should, let me revise what I was going to say. I believe Mr. Shamshiri might be coming in soon with his fence again. But at this point, I don't think that those are pretty minor, and work permits, that's a whole different thing. We're not, that doesn't have, that's one of the things that did not have a fee associated with it and will not get, right, and will not get charged until you evaluate it. It's only the ones at an existing fee. That's my understanding.
And the Mills Act, we don't have anybody there.
Yes. Well, we're still working on item number 4, so.
So I would go ahead and continue it. I don't think you're running the risk, and, I think that we'll meet again next month, and.
So this item has been continued.
Yes, just,
Thank you.
okay.
All in favor of continuing the item?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes.
Now, with that said, in the meeting, I want to just ask about, I'm new here. I've never done a full year of the HPC, and Heather was the liaison, and now I'm in default the liaison. So, is January your month where you normally take your retreat?
Yes.
Or are we going to be able to take some items on that January meeting?
I don't think we meet in January. We do our
Okay.
retreat.
So I want to make sure that you guys
That's what I mean.
understand that you're going to continue this item to the next regular scheduled meeting, which would be February. Just want to make sure we all understand where we're going with
That's
this.
what we do.
Okay.
The agenda for the retreat is goal setting.
Okay.
And in the past, we've taken up some emergency lightweight issues, but generally
Okay. So if you notice on your agenda tonight, we have item number 6, which is future agenda items. And we put down everything that you've been talking about recently to staff. It was my decision to not take some of these items forward because you already had a much full agenda and we didn't even get through the ones that we presented for you. Staff, we have contract staff, planning staff in now that I'm getting up to speed and working on these items. So I will assign these to them to start working on some of these things to get them presented for you for the February meeting then, unless there's anything on this future agenda item that you want to see. Oh, go ahead. Sherry's waving at me.
The museum really has been in for a while. That's what I'm talking about. The comprehensive sign program.
Oh, well, Rose is leaving. Bye, Rose. But I was just wanting to make sure that you can tell me whatever it is that you want to do for your goal setting agenda, so that I know what
Do
I
that.
can work what.
if you wanted, we could take up the museum one, because I think they're very anxious to get going. They want to put up signs or banners, or they want to have a.
I'm fine with doing that. I just want to make sure everybody understands what the process is here.
Working for a couple of years on a change in the ordinance having to do with demolition.
Thank you, Rose.
Of these 37 structures, that was the original intent of the sites of merit, was to write an amendment to the city ordinance about demolition, to not issue demolition permits. And I think what's gone on here with the house on Foothill and our signal and this building that we heard tonight, that maybe we could look at how we might tighten up.
Is that what you'd like on your agenda then?
Well, it's something we've been talking about, but it kind of got sidetracked when Rob left, and we haven't,
Yeah.
it's just kind of been left off on the side, and I would like to see us.
Well, I would recommend that, since we're at a late night right now, that all the commissioners can, if I may, make this suggestion, you all think about it between the next week or so, what you'd like. Give your ideas to Chair McCready about what he would then pass on to me as
I will do
being a
that.
final agenda.
Okay.
For
Okay, just
February.
send your ideas to him and give that to me of what you'd like to do. And like I said, I'll have to work with Sherry about how the retreat is. Oh, do you guys have a date for the retreat?
No, get the calendar at.
It's usually late January.
Yeah, the retreat, the last 4 or 5 years has been at my house, because I'm in the city.
Okay,
And I do have handicap access
okay.
into the house. So if you wanted to do that, I'm sure my wife will. I've been told Rose usually makes that motion. That would be fine with her,
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
So, and now what happens is that usually it's a potluck type of deal, so
Okay.
everybody would need to supply some part of the meal.
We can talk about that after the meeting, but the date does need to be decided. The 17th, 24th, or 31st?
17th would probably be the best.
Is the 17th okay with everybody?
Is that not is that a holiday weekend?
That's opening of the new exhibit museum. That's Saturday, January 17th.
We don't mean it.
The public reception for the new museum.
We don't have it on that.
But is the museum opening, isn't it in the late afternoon?
5 to 7.
Yeah, so we're usually
we'll be
over by
okay.
1 o'clock.
Yeah. We start at 10 and go to about 1 for the people that just hang out.
I think last year was
One
on
at
the
a-
Super Bowl day, right? We all
Now,
No, there's just something wrong with that.
Yeah,
All right.
Because Darwin left to put on his chicken suit. I remember that.
Remember,
All right, so
we're still
we're
on camera.
We're here on the 17th then? Is that what we're doing? Okay. Thank you. And then we can move on to, if I can, Chair, to the planning report. I just want to make sure, because this is a little unusual, that we're not rolling right into another, actual standard agenda. I just want to make sure everybody understood that. And so I don't know of anything that we're dealing with regarding historic preservation other than what we brought forward to you tonight, which came, as we said, a number of times quickly to staff. And thank you for having this joint meeting.
I had one question, and I don't know if you're going to give us the answer or not, but it was left up in the air. What is going on with the house that built the illegal wall on Foothill across the street from the Libby House?
What do you want to know specifically?
Well, we were left, the thing, there was legal issues that were involved and that we were not privy to. And we just.
Well, do you want to know about the house?
No,
or
no,
the,
about the wall. About the wall.
what do you want to know about the wall?
Is it coming down or is it being brought into compliance with code?
The second, it's being brought into compliance with code.
They're going to lower it.
Well, they supposedly already did, but before it's final, they will be in compliance, correct?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But is it in compliance with code or in compliance with, are they gonna get a work permit from us?
They can't get a work from you. The property is not landmarked. You don't have jurisdiction.
Yes, we do. That house is a landmark. That's a landmark house. It's the gatehouse to the Arbolado.
Yes, Sherry?
The staff report, and that was already another discussion, and that's not agendized, so we can bring it back again if you want.
Yes.
It already was brought back to you and resolved.
But it was, we were told at that time, there's personnel issues, there's all kinds of things that were going on.
We have a whole staff report with all the backup documentation. We can bring it back when it's agendized.
Okay, good.
Because the whole issue was that to do that wall, they had to get a work permit,
Which they never did.
and they never did.
Am I missing are we talking about 1105 still?
No,
Oh,
no.
I'm sorry.
We're on Foothill.
1,000.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was completely on the wrong subject then. I'm like,
Well, it's-
okay, because you guys are all like, all right.
Just Don whispering in your ear.
No, I'm just, there's just too many,
Issues.
all I was trying to say when I was trying to say about future agenda, I'm supposed to tell you about any current planning activities that involve historic resources. And what I began to say was, we met with Mr. Shimshiri again today. And so that will be coming forward for you, the 1,000 foothill. So he is
1,000 Foothill.
1,000 foothill. He is talking with staff, and we are beginning that process again, just to let you know.
With that, I will invite the museum representative to have a few words.
Mark,
And if you could, keep it to fewer than 15 minutes.
Everything is great at the museum. We currently have our.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. This is Mark Lewis.
This is Mark Lewis. We currently have our history of the Ojai Playhouse exhibit, of course, in full force. That will be up through, I think, just a few days shy of the end of the year, mid-January. And our gala of opening, of course, as we said, is January 17th, will be the show Michelle Pracy is curating. It's a combination of history and art. It's portraits of Ojai people. Some are historic portraits, some are current portraits, many by Ojai artists, a mixture. And that's going to be our next event. And with that, I bid you good night.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lewis.
I want to plug for your great article in the Ojai Quarterly.
Mr. If you'd like to take the floor,
I
I don't think it's agendized.
Yeah, I know. Just a comment. Mark wrote a
Microphone on,
I-
so people can actually hear
Yeah.
your comment.
Mark wrote a brilliant article about the current owner, the new owner of the ranch house, and what things have gone on there. He talks all about this guy's history and what he has plans for the future, and it's worth reading. It really is very nice.
Thank you.
And you're right, it did take a long time to read. A big article.
My specialty.
And it was nice of you to recognize Mr. Ojai as a trend center rather than an amateur historian.
Yeah.
So,
And it's with, since council liaison is not present tonight, I adjourn this meeting of the Ojai Historic Preservation Commission.
we actually had a council liaison first part of
I know, you gave out.
Paul Blatz.
Actually, you know, I called it Man About Town.
Is that,
I said retired florist, local historian, Man About Town, after the trend center.
oh, after the
Tastemaker,
part.
tastemaker.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard.
Nine.
Yeah, let's see, Carol's, Taco Bell,
Yeah, we did this
Wendy's.
Tuesday.